Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2024 Alexandria PTA Council Healthy Choices Forum. Tonight's event was co-sponsored by Alexandria City High School PTSA and the Alexandria City Public Schools. My name is Katie Brownback, and I am the president of the PTA Council this year. I'm a mom to 3 children, the oldest of whom just started at Hammond Middle School. Raising kids is hard, and raising teenagers brings a special dynamic to the challenge. All of us want our children to grow up healthy and happy. We are very excited to bring you together tonight with experts from both inside and outside of ACPS to discuss how we can best support our children during this tricky adolescent period. We're grateful to have you here with us, whether you are in person, you're on the Zoom, or you're streaming from Facebook Live. Before we introduce our guests, I just wanted to thank our school board members, Mr. Chris Harris and Mr. Tim Beatty, for being here with us tonight. And now I would like to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Melanie K. Wyatt, who would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Ms. Brownback. What an exciting evening it is to be here with everyone. So it's really encouraging to see all of our families come out. I know it's not the best weather outside, but to see you here, to come through that weather to an event that is so important to all of us, especially to our students. So there's nothing more important than health and wellness of our children, physically, mentally, and socially and emotionally, so that they can successfully come to school and be engaged in all of their academics and extracurricular activities each and every day. Alexandria City Public Schools proudly joins the Alexandria Parent-Teacher Association Council and Alexandria City High School Parent-Teacher and Student Association in supporting you, our students, and our families this evening. We want each of you to know we are here to make healthy choices. It's about decisions. While there's a lot of resources that you're going to hear about tonight, we want you to know that you have options and you have choices. You're going to hear a lot of that language tonight, and we can't stress it enough. I also want to extend my gratitude to the Alexandria Health Department and the Teen Wellness Center, Hazel Health, the Substance Abuse Coalition of Alexandria, and Moms Demand Action Be Smart for being a part of this evening's discussion. It is of the utmost importance to openly, let me say that again, to openly address issues. Something we didn't do previously. I think about when I was growing up, there were certain things that we didn't want to talk about in schools, but it is of the utmost importance for the time that we are in now to have these open conversations, not only as families with our students, but as a greater community, so that we can address substance abuse, mental health concerns like suicide prevention that truly impact our teens and their paths moving forward here in Alexandria City Public Schools and really in their future careers in life. This evening, you will have the chance to learn more about all that we can do to help facilitate these healthy choices and help us create safe environments for all students. As well as developing healthy choices in school, it is equally important that our families support students by developing healthy choices too. We're all role models in this great work that we're doing. So we are joined this evening by an amazing panel of speakers with whom you'll have the opportunity to ask specifically about what is going on in Alexandria City Public Schools to support students and to help them make healthy choices. This is truly resetting the bar in action as we go through, and I know my team's going to jump in with me when I say this, as we go through this work as one team, one journey, but one community. It is essential for us to focus on their social, emotional, and academic learning to strengthen competencies and social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, self-management, and self-awareness. Alexandria City Public Schools has a dedicated, and I keep saying that because I watch them give hours upon countless hours of their time, a dedicated student support team made up of counselors, school nurses, school psychologists, school social workers to provide supports to students in academics, college and career, health and wellness, socio-emotional, and behavioral development. Our emphasis on student well-being is integral to fostering connections with students and ultimately supporting improved behavior and safety outcomes. I encourage you, wherever you are, to ask questions if you're live here in person or to go online to our Q&A function to put your questions there as we continue this forum this evening. I look forward to an engaging and productive discussion this evening as we share ideas, concerns, and receive your insightful feedback on addressing how to best help our teens, our teens, our teens, our teens. I keep wanting to share that because in the community of Alexandria, we are really about doing this together. So help us with our teens to make the best healthy life choices. Thank you to everyone in attendance, whether you're in person or virtually. I also want to thank all of our partners who are out in the lobby tonight. Please make sure you connect with our tables. And also, I want to give a special thank you to our panel, as well as all of the ACPS staff that's here this evening supporting this comms team. You've worked hours along with our PTA leadership, so thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Kay Wyatt. We are so glad that you are here, and we're appreciative of our your partnership with our PTAs. So before I introduce you to our distinguished panel, I wanted to share some ground rules for the evening. Each speaker is going to briefly share his or her perspective on mental health, and then we'll move on to questions. If you're here with us in person, helpers in these blue PTAC shirts or white PTSA shirts will be walking up and down the aisles with index cards and pens to collect your questions. If you're watching on Zoom, please put your questions in the Q&A so that our Zoom team can share them with us. We also have someone monitoring the Facebook Live feed for questions posted on that platform. Our PTSA president, Missy Esterbrook, and I will take turns posing questions to the panel. If you feel comfortable, please include your name and school so we get a sense of who is here and where to focus our advocacy efforts. If you're a student, we'd love to know that. But of course, if you're not comfortable identifying yourself, anonymous questions are fine. We've had several questions submitted in advance, and that is the questions that we will start with. And we will keep going until we run out of questions or we reach 7 p.m. At 7 p.m., we will separate into 3 breakout sessions. You can choose what you would like to learn more about. The options will be substance abuse with Narcan training, safe gun storage with Be Smart, or suicide prevention awareness. And on one final note, we ask that everyone remain respectful of our panel, our volunteers, and our process. We're all here working together for solutions to important problems, and we are strengthened by these partnerships and grateful for your help as we pursue our mission of making every child's potential a reality. So now I'm honored to introduce our guests, many of whom are parents themselves. To my left, after Dr. Kay Wyatt, we have Dr. Victor Martin, the ACPS Executive Director of Student Support Teams. Next to Dr. Martin, we have Ms. Lily Sutherland, a licensed clinical social worker from the Department of Community and Human Services. Next, we have Ms. Ursula Roca, an ACPS mental health specialist. Next, we have Ms. Cynthia Pacheco, a Director of Family Programs for Stop Child Abuse Now, or SCAN. After that, we have Ms. Emma Beal from the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition of Alexandria, or SAPCA. We have Ms. Estella Sandoval from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, or DEA. And last, we have Mr. John Contreras, the ACPS Director of Safety and Security Services. Thank you all for being here. We will start our introductions with Dr. Martin.
Good evening, all. Can you hear me okay? All right, perfect. As was stated, I'm Victor Martin. I'm the Executive Director of Student Support Teams for the school system. And in that role, I oversee the school nurses, the school psychologists, the school counselors, and the school social workers for the entire division. Just a little bit of work there. And so one of the things that happens a lot of times is people are sometimes unclear as to what specifically those people do, right? And so I just want to take a second to just let you know that counselors tend to focus on more academic, social, emotional, and career development, right? Our social workers do some of that work as well, but do more consultation type work with students. They're oftentimes the conduit between students and families in the community. And one of the areas that we've been focusing on this past year and last year as well was addressing our chronic absenteeism rates. And our social workers are oftentimes the leaders of our new teamed approach to that. And we have seen some pretty significant growth in that area in terms of decreasing some of our chronic absenteeism rates. Our school nurses, they generally support overall student wellness in the building, but they also partner with the Virginia Department of Health, the Alexandria Health Department, not only to promote health within the school, but in the community, and also to prevent disease, right? That's something that our nurses focus on quite a bit. Our school psychologists, and this one is often misunderstood, as I think sometimes people think that school psychologists have like a couch in their office and people come in there and they share all their problems and that type of thing. They do some counseling type services or whatever, but most of their work is around academic and psychological assessments for students, right? It's not coming into a place and just sitting down and sharing your problems and then being cured in a short period of time. So wanted to let you know that all of the work that we do, our SST members, and that's student support teams, we oftentimes call them SST members, is done using a tiered model of support, a multi-tiered system of support, sometimes referred to as MTSS. And so at our tier 1 level, we're trying to do a lot of our preventative type of work, right? And that's available to all of our students, right? Sometimes those students need a little bit more, right? And so that's when we start to look at our tier 2 services. And at that level, you might see some students being placed into small groups to get additional support around mental health or academics, right? And sometimes some of the SST members will do individual work with those students as well. At our tier 3 level, and you'll hear some of this more from some of the other members of the panel, is where you still might have some small group stuff, but that becomes really individualized, right? And oftentimes those needs that those students have are in collaboration with community resources, okay? We have a few programs that we use to support social emotional learning at the elementary level and at the secondary level. Some of you may be familiar with Komochis, and then this other one that we have called Social Thinking, and both of them are around to support social emotional learning skills. And at the secondary level, we use student success skills and another program called Strong Kids. And since I just mentioned student success skills, the folks in my office just got a grant. Well, we got it last year, but we're going to use it this year. And we are going to start to look at cohorts of students that we can actually implement that program with. It's something that we haven't done before, and I think it's going to be really helpful, especially at the secondary level, to address and support some students that have issues with attendance, maybe behavior challenges, and some academic needs, right? I'm going to close out in a minute here or whatever, but I also want to highlight, and you heard Dr. K. Wyatt mention it, the Hazel Health Program, right? And I really have to give kudos to the school board members that are here and Dr. K. Wyatt, as they've been big proponents of this, and it's significant. It's a significant commitment financially and in time, right? And our Hazel Health Program is a free teletherapy program that's available to all students in ACPS, regardless of your economic status, your citizenship status. It is free to every student in Alexandria City Public Schools. I can tell you, I remember when the school board asked me to look into this, and I went, what? Like, that really exists? And then when we found it, the students that have participated in it, the parents that have shared their thoughts on it and stuff, everything has been overwhelmingly positive. And if you aren't familiar with it, there is some information in the back table there, the ACPS table, that has it. One of the things that's come from that, and I have to refer to my notes because I don't remember these statistics off the top of my head, is that we've looked at the reasons why students are being referred to Hazel Health. And when you complete the referral form, there's a number of different choices that you have. And one of the things that we've noticed is that the leading one is family concerns, right? So students are seeking some therapeutic support around how to address issues with their family. The next 4 in order are sadness, anxiety, peer relationships, and academics. And so with this data, we've been able to provide professional development, professional learning to not only our SST staff, but also our instructional staff to help address some of those. And you'll also hear from Ms. Rocha in a few minutes how we've used some of that data along with another program that we have called DESA to actually work with the schools and different teams to make sure that the SEL supports that we provide and the SEL program aligns to address some of this, right? So that's it in a nutshell. Thank you all for coming out. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you have. Again, my name is Victor Martin. You can email me. You can find my information on the website. But thank you all for coming, and I will pass it on to Ms. Sutherland.
Thank you, Victor. Good evening. My name is Lily Sutherland. I am the team leader for outpatient services with the Child Family Behavioral Health Services, also known as the Community Service Board. Outpatient services include therapy, family therapy, case management services, psychological testing. So in contrast with what Dr. Martin was saying, we have 2 clinical psychologists in-house that can do the social, emotional, and the academic portion of testing as well. We also have family support partners to partner with parents as well, and high fidelity wraparound, which is an evidence-based model to support youth that are at risk of out-of-home placement. But in terms of how we Child Family Behavioral Health Services are supporting students in ACPS. We have a really strong collaboration with our system partner. We regularly meet with Dr. Martin and other ACPS personnel monthly to see how we can best support students in ACPS. We offer school-based outpatient therapy at ACHS, Minnie Howard, GW, Hammond, and Jefferson Houston. And students, if it's a barrier to bring the student to our office, we want to make our services accessible. It's part of what Dr. Martin was talking about in terms of Tier 3 interventions. We really work on, with community partners, system partners, of trying to make various access entry points, not just solely at our office located at the Merck Center. We also have collaboration with the Teen Wellness Center as well in terms of referrals, and we work also in the Juvenile Detention Center and Shelter Care as well. I will ask if my email can be put in maybe the chat if people have questions, and certainly they can reach out to me. If you have any other further questions regarding services, the last thing I forgot to mention, that we prioritize youth with Medicaid and youth that are uninsured is part of our prioritization in terms of our service. Thank you so much. I'll pass it to Ms. Ursula.
Good evening, buenas noches. My name is Ursula Rocha, and I'm the mental health specialist. I've spent the last 20 years of my education careers here in ACPS, mostly working with our students and supporting their mental health needs and assessing their learning needs. I'm also the very proud mama of 3 ACPS students, a recent graduate, a high schooler, and a middle schooler. In my current job, I oversee the social-emotional learning curriculum. I also support the schools with trauma-informed learning and, and crisis interventions. ACPS, the priority of ACPS is our students' mental health. We want our students to be well. In order to do that, we use the social-emotional learning curriculum as one of our tools. The Virginia Department of Education defines SEL as using the CASTLE framework, which, as Dr. Kewayan mentioned, is self-awareness, social management, relationship skills, all the things that we need to be successful in life, to navigate our everyday, what we need to do to be able to work on an assignment, to plan for a job interview, to plan for college, to apply for college. So those are the soft skills that we need. How do we do that in ACPS? We embed them throughout the academic day, and we also explicitly teach them using the ruler curriculum, which was developed by the Yale Institute of Emotional Intelligence. We spend about 15 to 30 minutes in the classroom doing the explicit instruction. And then, like I said before, we embed it throughout the day. We're working really closely with TLL to make sure that throughout our day, we are using the CASTLE competencies to give the skills that our students need. Now let's talk about what we can do as parents. I think that the most important thing that we can do is have open lines of communication. We need to build trust. It's really important to remember that it's not about us. We need to be as physical and as emotional available for our students so that we can build that trust and that relationship. Unfortunately, they are going to experience pain. They're going to experience heartbreak. They're going to experience disappointment. Our job is not, sorry, I don't know if that was me. Our job is not to protect our students from that, but our job is to be the safe place where they can land when they experience those things. We are to be the ear that they can go to. We are to be that shoulder that they can rely on when they are crying. Again, it's not about us. Many times, my children come to me, and I want to give them all the advice in the world, but I know that they don't want my advice. They want me to listen. So I always tell my kids, do you want my advice, or do you want me to listen? And most of the time, they just want me to listen. That trust is significantly important because it's also a way to see when signs of distress are occurring. Again, unfortunately, suicide is the second leading cause of death in our youth. So the more we're aware of changes in our students, in our youth, the better we're going to be to identify those areas of need. As we talk about suicide, I also, it seems so deep, right? But it is so important because one adult can make a difference. Just one adult. Just being available, building that connection. You can be the parent, the caregiver, the counselor, the coach. One adult can make a difference in the life of a child. I encourage every person in this room to take the Youth Mental Health First Aid class. It is offered monthly. It's offered in English and in Spanish, and it's just as important as first aid. It gives you the tools and the skills to be able to recognize early signs of distress, connect our youth with the resources that they need, and also be able to see what is normal or typical and what isn't, right? There are many things that our youth will go through that seems really different, but it's typical behavior. So again, if you could take the class, I recommend and encourage all of you to do it. That, again, that one adult can save a life. And the last thing I want to say, I want to talk about social media. When I was growing up, if I was bullied in school or I broke up with my partner, I got to go home and cry it out. Now they don't get to disconnect from whatever is happening. That is following them wherever they go. And I know this is not very popular opinion, but if you can cut their social media time before bedtime, they need that emotional break. They need that emotional regulation. They need to be able to disconnect before they can go to bed. If they are not disconnecting, they are not sleeping well, and all of those things contribute to their mental health. So again, please take the classes, work on their social media, and be there for them. And if you need any additional information, I am on the webpage. That social-emotional curriculum is on the webpage, and I'm available, like Victor said, email, phone, whatever you need. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Cinzia Pacheco, the Director of Family Programs at SCAN, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. We have been supporting Alexandria City schools and the tiers that were mentioned earlier in prevention. We offer programming to families and youth. We try to cater some of our workshops and programming towards the needs of the community. We have different programs in place right now. We have early education, the early years parenting classes. One specifically that we have is called Circle of Security, and that supports 0 all the way to 10. and it helps the parents learn and understand children's behavior and helps them nurture and their parenting skills. We offer Strengthening Families, also known as SFP, all the way from 10 to 14, which is really for middle school and high school ages. That supports both the youth and the parents. It's actually a really unique class that the parents and youth come and attend together at the same time, and it really touches on family unity, stressors. It gives an opportunity for the youth to have their time and the parents to have their time, and then they come together. It's a 2-hour class that's offered every week for 8 weeks, and it really supports the difficult time that youth and parents are having during that middle school to high school age. And then we have our one-on-one coaching. It supports the parent specifically in working towards different skills and working through issues they may be having with their youth. Really, it's for any ages, but really, really does support especially middle school and high school age. And that's our coaching one-on-one program. Aside from that, we have been offering lots of different workshops that have catered towards the needs of the different schools in Alexandria, specifically in Alexandria City. We worked all last year supporting with the truancy department that you guys have here with Hope. And that was wonderful for us to come in and support that program, and we will continue to do that this year as well. So those are the main programs that we offer to the community, and Alexandria City has been taking advantage of a lot of them already. All right, I'm going to pass this on.
Good evening. My name is Emma Beal, and I coordinate the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition of Alexandria, or SAPCA. I'm also a very proud native of Alexandria. I graduated from T.C. Williams when it was T.C. Williams High School, so it's always a pleasure to be back and connect with youth and families. So SAPCA's mission is really working with our community to prevent youth substance use, as well as to support youth to make healthy and informed choices. So I'm going to be talking about a couple of ways that parents can help their children have the information and the tools that they need to make those informed choices. So one, talking early and often about the risks of substance use, knowing how substance use can affect the developing brain, how it can impact relationships, goals we have for the future, some of the legal consequences as well. One resource I love to share with families is this parent handbook. So this is a great resource. It's available in English and Spanish, and it covers information about different substances, information about how to talk to your child about different substances, as well as other relevant topics. So mental health, how to stay safe online. So we give these out for free. If you're here, I encourage you to visit our table. If you're not, we can connect to get you that resource. The second thing is setting clear boundaries and expectations as a family. Youth often share with me that the reason that they're not using certain substances is because they know exactly what privileges or what consequences will happen. And it can also be helpful to explain the reasoning behind these rules and setting those consequences together as a family. Sometimes we may assume our children know how we feel about certain topics or what we disapprove of, but we do know research shows that when parents discuss those consequences and send a clear and strong message that they disapprove of youth substance use and clearly communicate those consequences, their children are 50% less likely to use alcohol or other drugs. The last thing I'm going to talk about is discussing strategies for responding to tough situations. We can't control choices other people make, but we can control how we react and respond. This can include practicing what your child would say or do if they're offered alcohol or other drugs. Some families may establish a code word that a youth may use to discreetly signal that they're in need of help. A great way to kind of get a youth out of a tough situation. Also, supporting our youth to cope with stress in healthy ways and modeling healthy ways to cope with stress. We know youth experience stress. We all do. There are times when that may be heightened. So working together to have that list of ways that you can manage and respond to that stress in a healthy way. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name again is Estela Sandoval, and I am representative of the DEA Washington Division. So the DEA is a federal agency that is entrusted in enforcing controlled substances. We do our job using 3 strategies: enforcement, regulation, and outreach. For today's purpose, I'm not going to be touching on anything on enforcement or regulation, but mainly we're going to focus on outreach and why it's important. The communities of DC, Maryland, and Virginia are expecting an uptick on overdoses and fentanyl poisonings, especially in schools. It's heartbreaking to see how many lives have lost their lives to fentanyl. And what's worse, that many of them, they didn't even know what they were using, okay? Fentanyl still remains the deadliest drug that our country is facing right now. Just 2 milligrams of fentanyl is a deadly dose. 7 out of 10 pills that the DEA seizes from drug dealers are fake. What that means is that these pills that are not made in a lab, they're not in control areas, are being laced with fentanyl. For our youth, it's imperative for them to understand that experimenting is not like before, where you were able to maybe have a chance or two, or perhaps just have an addiction. But the first time of experimentation can actually take their lives. The CDC estimated for 2023 about 110,000 overdoses in the United States. 300 people die every day from drug poisonings. Synthetic opioids such as fentanyl remains the primary driver of the opioid epidemic, with fentanyl involved in almost 70% of drug poisonings. Drug overdose is the leading death of Americans 18 to 45 years of age. The DEA understands that law enforcement is not enough to combat this drug epidemic that we have in the United States. That's why the DEA has a lot of resources, and we have a lot of partnership with state, local governments, healthcare, drug prevention professionals, youth, parents, caregivers, educators, employees, and businesses to promote education and the dangers of drug awareness. Also, we talk about controlled substances, including prescription drugs, and the handling of them. A lot of times, kids will start at home with prescription drugs that they were not disposed correctly, okay, by the parents. So parents, make sure that you dispose of your prescription drugs, because kids will also try to experiment at home, and they'll start some sort of problem at home with some sort of addiction, and there's a lot of responsibility also that comes with prescription drugs. We have a lot of resources available, a lot of campaigns available. One of them is the One Pill Can Kill campaign that is available to all of our educators, schools, local, state governments. It's free of copyright. Anybody can adopt it. And we have different websites that are dedicated for colleges, that are dedicated for parents, educators, and caregivers, and also for the youth. I have set up a table of all of the resources available in English and Spanish. I didn't bring any other languages because they told me it was mainly English and Spanish. I have set up a table out there. Please feel free to pass by and get some of the resources. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to those of you that are here today, and also welcome to those of you viewing online. My name is John Contreras. I am the Director of Safety and Security Services for Alexandria City Public Schools. Safety and Security Services is responsible for the physical security and environmental safety of all ACPS facilities. We do what we can to maintain a safe learning environment for Alexandria's children. How is safety and security related to a student's mental health? Well, I'll tell you that mostly we work in the periphery. We work in the background most times. Being safe and feeling safe at school, although two very different things, are both very important. Feeling safe and being safe. A few ways that we contribute to being safe and feeling safe at school are our security cameras. All of our schools are now equipped with our latest and greatest security camera system. All of our schools are now, we also are a 24/7 operation, which means we patrol our school buildings at nighttime and on holidays to ensure that the next day that your children are in school, the school is safe. We have a new security contract with a new company that has provided also much needed support for security, adding security personnel on the ground. We have a new visitor and emergency management platform called Raptor, which we use for not only sex offender registry, but also for our emergency management and drill program, emergency drill program. We have a vape sensor program for all high school locations. We have weapon screening for our secondary schools. And we have a award-winning emergency management video series that we now have on our website that you can view anytime you want. And it tells you about our emergency procedures that we have at our school. And that includes secure the building, evacuation, lockdown, and shelter in place. All of those things that is to say that how a student feels at school is also very important. As Dr. K. White mentioned, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, we are in this together. It actually takes all of us to make sure our schools are safe. And I'm going to close with I'll close with this, that we have a very robust relationship with our Alexandria Police Department as well. Lately it's been every day, but we collaborate with them almost daily when we get information that we have to act on, and we act on everything that we receive from you all. And we appreciate the invitation to be here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Now that we've heard from all of our speakers, we're going to start with some questions. So again, if you're in the audience and you'd like to ask a question, you can raise your hand. We'll bring you a card and a pen, and you can write it down. We're going to start with some questions that were submitted with the RSVPs. So the first one is, can you confirm if there have been any threats made toward the schools and what steps are being taken to ensure the safety of our children?
Thank you, Ms. Brownback. I'll take that question. We know that there has been a lot of rumors of social media threats over the last several days. We have sent communications throughout our school communities letting them know what we have found through investigations. As Mr. Contreras said just a few moments ago, thank you for that, Mr. Contreras. We work very closely with our Alexandria Police Department. So first, I want to thank them for their partnership. While we're managing those types of social media threats, I have a cabinet who's actually here with me this evening. That cabinet and my senior leadership team, along with the security team, along with APD, we collaborate to make sure that every social media, whether it's a rumor at that time or a threat of some sort, we take the time to investigate that, to make sure we have every bit of information possible to make a very sound decision to ensure the safety of all of our schools. When we're talking about the safety of our schools, that includes our students, our staff, and any visitors who walk in through our doors. So recently, as you know, there's been a number of social media rumors. We have worked with APD. They were not credible threats. Let me say that again. From what we found thus far of the social media threats that were rumors, they were not They were not credible threats. I want to make sure every student who's watching, because we're still getting questions about that, they were not credible. What we have found in working with the Alexandria Police Department, and they have a number of resources that they also work with to investigate these social media threats, is that what we're seeing is that the threats in the post are being passed between the region and even the state of Virginia. So sometimes, like on Monday, if we sent out a communication to the community, and maybe one child heard about it or another didn't, and then they start talking, and then it kind of spreads. But what I want you to know is that even when that second report comes through, we do investigate that. We are going to take every bit of information, every potential rumor, threat that we see, information that we receive, and we're going to give it our full attention. Because our goal is that every student comes into school, every staff comes into school, and we all go home to our families. That is our goal. We know we're here for academics, but please know that safety is of the utmost importance to us. So again, thank you to everyone who's submitted, maybe some information that's helped us with the investigative process. Thank you to our students, our school admin teams, but we will continue to make sure that we take every measure to ensure that our students and our staff and any visitors or families in our schools are safe. So again, I want to say this. The threats that we've had this week were not credible threats. They were rumors thus far, and we will continue to work as we always do each and every day. We have a high security stance each and every day that we want to make sure our students feel that way coming into our school. I know there's a lot of emotions when we're talking about threats in today's society. Have conversations at home about how they're feeling, what emotions are coming up. As you can see, we have a number of resources in our schools that can truly address and support not only your students, but you and our staff. So staff members, if you're watching, please continue to reach out through our Employee Assistance Program. We also make sure there are counselors on site for our staff as well as our students. So if you're experiencing some emotions or have some questions, please continue to reach out to your school admin who can direct you to the resources that we have available. I don't want anyone to think that, they should feel a certain way if they're having emotions or their students having emotions. That is why we are here. We are dedicated to you and your families each and every day. So please make use of those resources. The other thing in closing on this comment, when I say we're here to support, we do get some questions sometimes. We send things out through text messages, and then there's a full email where you get every detail about what we've investigated to the best of our ability. Unfortunately, recently, because they are those repeated and reposts of social medias, that's all we sometimes have. So if your student has information that's more detailed than that, then of course, that's how we continue to investigate, and we will look into those matters. But what I encourage all families to do, if you're not signed up for Parent Square app, please do so. And if you need help tonight, I don't know if they were prepared for it, but I'm going to put my staff on the spot. If there's a family here, please reach out to one of our staff members. They will make sure that you get that app. That is so important, not only for matters like this, but also for inclement weathers or any other changes that may have to happen in a schedule throughout the day. So again, there were rumors at this point, and our social media threats that you are hearing about were not found. They were not credible. So thank you.
Hold on 1 second, sir. Did you write it down on a card and we'll get, oh, you have to, hold on, we're gonna get to your question, I promise, okay? So we do have, thank you, Dr. K. Wyatt. We have another question that was pre-submitted online, and then we're going to go to Ms. Esterbrook in the audience. And this question is, I am worried about my child's mental health, and if a student is feeling anxious, depressed, or overwhelmed, who is the first person they should go to at school?
I can take that. So before I answer this, I also want to share that I have 3 children, and one of my daughters was feeling very anxious, right? And so the first thing that I want to say is that when your child shares this with you, or you suspect it, right, that you feel that because you know your child better than we do, please start to, as Ms. Rocha said, engage in the conversation with them about needs that they may have, right? I think it's very important that we let kids know that those feelings are natural, right? But there are ways in which you can get support around that. I know in my particular case with my one daughter that feels this way, we were able to get her some counseling type supports and stuff, and she's doing much better now, right, with that. To answer the question though, at the school level, you should try and reach out to one of the SST members, right? A social worker, a psychologist, a counselor, a school nurse. If the child doesn't have a relationship with one of those people and they have like a favorite teacher, reach out to them. Teachers know what to do in terms of like, if you share this with me, I will help you get in contact with people that can help you with this. Reach out to your administrator, right? If you are a parent and you suspect it and you're not sure what to do, right? You can always call the school. You can call me, right? And I'll get you in touch with the person that can help your child and stuff, right? But what we tell students a lot of times is to reach out to their SST member, right? Whether it be the folks that I said, and then they can start moving on that from there.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. So we have a question from the audience with Missy Estabrook. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I just want to thank the panel. I'm Missy Estabrook. I'm president of the high school PTSA, and with 2 high schoolers at home, I just want to let you know we appreciate everything you do for our kids. So we have a couple questions from online. The first is, how does ACPS handle school fights?
Thank you for that question. So our security team works in collaboration with the administrators and on campus. So when a fight breaks out, a lot of times some of those are stopped before they get into an actual physical confrontation. Sometimes they're not. When they are in a full-blown physical confrontation, not only our staff members getting involved, but our security team, those schools that have security are getting involved as well, and they are stopped as quickly as possible. Once that is taken care of, administrators are notified and interviews occur with those students, parents are called, and if there are any injuries, whether they're superficial or not, they are seen by the nurse, and that's how most fights are handled. Most don't even result in injury or last that long. They're very brief.
Thank you. Missy, do you have another question from the
Sure.
audience?
How can we access services for children who have mental health challenges and require medication?
Can you say that one more time?
Sure, happy to. Sorry. How can we access services for children who have mental health challenges and require medication?
Yeah, regardless of whether or not you require medication, I would still reach out to your student support team members as they can assist you with that, right? When we talk about students that need medication and stuff, that is handled by our school nurses, right? And so in collaboration with an SST member, like a counselor, psychologist, or social worker, and then working with the nurse and the parents and things to make sure that the child's getting the accurate medication that they need, when they need it, in the proper amount. Yeah, that's, I don't want to say that that's a standard type of thing, but if a parent has a question about that, I would definitely reach out to an SST member or the school nurse to make sure that they can get that in a timely manner.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. So our next question was pre-submitted. It is, what programs are in place to support the development of children's social emotional skills?
Guess I'll take this one too. So I mentioned earlier about Komochis and the social thinking skills at the elementary level and student success in strong kids, but I think it's also important to note that ACPS has a very robust social emotional learning program, right? And I'll let Ms. Rocha add a little bit more to that in a minute. But we have other programs in place too to help support this. Our PBIS, our Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports program, our Restorative Practices program, and as I mentioned earlier, our Hazel Health program also help with students trying to get support around their social emotional skills. One other tool that we use throughout K-12 here in ACPS is we have a tool called the DESA. It's the Devereaux Students Strengths Assessment tool. And at the K-8 level, it's done by teachers, but at the high school level, students self-report, right? And from that data that we get, we're able to see what areas specifically around social emotional skills that students might need some more support in, right? And then we're able to craft lessons and infuse some of the work that's already being done in the social emotional learning classrooms and programs and stuff into some of that, so the kids, the social emotional skills that they may need are enhanced, right? Ms. Rocha, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything else to that.
No, I think you mentioned,
Okay, thank you both. Missy, do you have another question?
I did. Could we hear from some of our community partners on the same issue, how you would provide services for children who have mental health challenges and require?
I'm more happy to take that. So again, if the youth would like to access services, they can certainly access services two different ways for mental health and outpatient substance abuse. One, the first part is attending same-day access, which is located at 4850 Mark Center Drive. And we offer intakes Tuesday, Wednesday morning, and we always provide a note for school return as well, just to provide documentation. And based on the assessment, we will provide an initial treatment plan with recommendations. So I think there was a previous question about medication, and if someone wants to access psychiatric services, medication management, we can also make that referral as well, if that youth meets that criteria for us. If the Mark Center is not a viable option, or there's a lot of barriers, we certainly, a student can access services if they communicate with their SS team members, a social worker, counselor, psychologist, and nurse. They can send a referral to our team. We have full-time clinicians, again, at Mini and at ACHS that can do the intakes there, as well at Jefferson Houston as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, how does the Teen Wellness Center at ACHS support kids with mental health issues? Felt like that kind of followed up.
I'll take that question. So our team, we work closely with the Teen Wellness Center. So the Teen Wellness Center has, they understand how to assess your child's needs for mental health, and will ask questions whether if they're presenting with anxiety or depression, or there are other stressors going on in your child's life. And the Teen Wellness Center can actually refer straight to us. So we work in collaboration with the Teen Wellness Center. So if a student goes to Teen Wellness Center and expresses some stressors or anxiety, or to the Teen Wellness Center, they will ask the student right then and there, are you open to services, or what do you think? And if they say yes, they make that referral to us. And then we will reach out to parents or the student to initiate that process.
Thank you. The next question is, how can we ensure that children who are highly observant and mimic others are positively influenced by their peers and environment?
So a couple ways to do this. So one is encouraging our youth to get involved in positive activities, sports, clubs, volunteering. They're going to be, with other students, pursuing those passions, pursuing those interests. We know that that is one factor that reduces the chance that youth are going to be, either interested in substance use or even have the time. So that's one thing I encourage. Another thing is just sharing the facts. We work with Alexandria City Public Schools and the health department to collect local survey data, and that survey data shows that most youth in Alexandria are not using alcohol. Most youth are not vaping, they're not using marijuana. Sometimes it can feel like everyone is doing something based on seeing something once or hearing something, but sharing that positive, what we call a social norm. And with that, we've worked with students at Alexandria City High School to have youth share those positive reasons why they're not using alcohol, why they're not vaping. So those videos are available, again, student created, really want to feature that student voice. available on our website. So encouraging that, highlighting that most youth are not using substances. That's a trend to get behind.
Thank you. Missy, do you have another question?
I do. I feel like I'm dominating. I promise these are from other people, not just me. What are essential school safety resources for new families to ACPS? And what should they know about?
The question was safety school resources? Or
Yes, I think Mr. Contreras, in particular related to new ACPS families, is there a resource they could go to?
Yeah, definitely. So two things. I'm going to provide a plug for the PTAs, but number one is to attend PTA meetings, number one. Number two is to visit the Safety and Security Services website. Actually, there are three things, but the Safety and Security Services website, when you get there to the right, there's a tab, Emergency Management tab. Those, and I mentioned the video series earlier, but those videos are very well put together by the communications team, and they explain exactly what we do during an emergency, whether it's a gas leak or a fire drill evacuation, secure the building, a shelter in place like for a weather event or something like that. The videos explain that. And it will allow you, as a new family to this area, to be able to learn from those videos and be able to communicate with your children in their language. And if you have any difficulties with that, please get with your school administrators, and they can provide you some more guidance. There was a third thing, but it left my brain. There was a third thing I was going to say, but it left my brain. So thank you for that question.
I got another one. How can we get 2 metal detectors in every school with 2 officers trained in school safety?
So what we can do, we have discussions about what our safety needs are in school, and it would be a part of our budget process if our security team feels like that is warranted.
Sorry, we're gonna keep going with the next question. So the next question is, how can families help if there is an emergency in the school?
I
So
would like
Dr.
to
Kiwai,
tag team with you on that.
I'll start, and I know you're going to have something to add to that, but how can families help if there is an emergency at school? Number one is and this is going to be difficult for some, but wait for instruction from ACPS and from the school. Traveling to the school during an emergency is not a good idea because that will hinder first responder response. Let me also add that we are at a disadvantage. I've been wanting to say this for quite a while, but we are at a disadvantage when there is an emergency, or maybe nothing very serious, but something's going on at school and you get a text from your child. Be very careful with what you're receiving from your child because that may not be accurate. Very often it's inaccurate. When we met with the Charles Barrett families last year after their event, when I said that very same thing, why do you want kids, the question from a parent was, why do you want kids to stay off their phones during an emergency? And when I gave them that response, because we want your children to be able to understand what the direction is being given by the grown-ups in the room, their eyes got big. And they realized that their children should not be using their time to do so much communicating on their phone devices to you. They should be listening to direction from the staff that's trying to keep them safe. So those are my recommendations for an emergency at a school.
Thank you. So switching gears just a little bit, if a student is suspected of drug use, is there a policy in place to notify the parents or caregivers?
So we received this question earlier, and I spoke with folks from our substance abuse team, and I think I see Mr. Martinez out there. So if you have a chance to speak with Mr. Freddie Martinez, the information that he can provide you around substance abuse is phenomenal. One of the programs that that team is offering is a student seminar. It's offered to both the students and their family members to attend. It's a very powerful event. It's one of those that I hope you don't have to participate in, but if you do, it's a very beneficial one for students. We also offer a 12-step program, and if I'm not mistaken, and Mr. Martinez can explain this better than I can, we're one of the few school systems that actually offer something like this, right? But in reference to the question, if a student is suspected of drug use, is there a policy to notify parents and caregivers? So if you are, and this is part of an ACPS policy, but it's part of a federal law and also part of a Virginia law, right? If you are under the age of 14, we have to notify your parent, right? If you are 15 or above, it's not that we're not going to notify your parent, but there actually are some legal aspects to this where we wouldn't necessarily. What we try to do is make sure that we do, but there are times where when we ask a student, are you okay with us reaching your parent, and they say no, we're talking about minor substance abuse type things, where a student says, I tried a vape the other day, right? We're not talking about a student that's had years and years of substance abuse or says, listen, I do this every day type of thing, right? And even still with that, and I want to make this clear, even still with that adult can still reach out to the parent. And we recommend that they do to inform them to make sure that they are clear as to why their child has come to them and the supports that are available to them, right? So I do want to say that there is a caveat, right? But we in ACPS do try our best to reach out to each of the parents when a situation like this comes up.
Hi there. I have a follow-up question about weapons abatement systems. Who actually makes the decisions for each school? Is there some kind of review panel that decides where the need is? Because, for example, Patrick Henry has had 3 gun threats this year, and they don't have a system. And then part 2 of that question is, if it's related to budget, the questioner thinks that the systems could be as little as $10,000. Is that true?
So thank you for that question. I'm not sure about the number and that data of 3 gun threats this year. I'm not sure. I can have my team verify that information, but, and let me hear the second part again. I'm sorry, Ms. Easterbrook.
No, not at all. Just who makes the decisions for where the weapons abatement systems are placed? Is there a panel, or is it Mr. Contreras?
So Mr. Contreras, along with, I do believe they work with APD and a number of other emergency services to make sure that we are positioning all of our schools to place them in appropriate places. I don't want to share a lot of what our process is to give our, to compromise our security stance.
Sorry, I have another one. Who do I confide in when it pertains to my children being attacked at school?
I'm sorry, I think my microphone died there. If you have any concern about the safety or well-being of your students, please immediately reach out to the school administrator. We have assistant principals, we have deans and principals in all of our schools. The administrators are your first contact. If you have a relationship, I think as Dr. Martin said earlier, please reach out to a school counselor or even a teacher, whoever you can get and make first contact with. A staff member, they will be sure that we will follow up with the concern.
Thank you. The next question came from a high school parent, and it reads, my concern and my child's concern is the late or absent marks students receive when transitioning between campuses at the high school. Could you explain how you are addressing this, particularly in cases where delays are due to long entry lines or buses?
Thank you for that question. That's a question we've received a few times. So at the beginning of the school year, when we opened up the academies of Alexandria, and students were coming in, we wanted to make sure they had choice in their schedules. There were a number of summer grads, and there were a number of schedule changes that came along, and a number of new students. So because of that need, there were some challenges with transporting students and having some delays between the campuses. Of course, immediately when we recognized that, we increased the number of shuttles dramatically. So you should see a decline in what that looks like. We are still working to make improvements on how those students are entering, as well as scheduling like a delay process for exiting to get on those shuttles to go between the campuses. So we're continuing to make improvements every day. We have a number of staff members out monitoring how to improve upon that. So you should see an increase in that kind of shuttle time, and the increase in improvement in process and decrease in times for those students being late. But let me just say this too. I'm still hearing from some parents about major delays in that. And that is not the case for major delays. And I will tell you what I have observed, because I have been at both campuses. I have been out on the paths, I've been in cars, I've been watching, and a number of our students, and students hear me clearly, if you're watching, leaving campus to pick up an app order at Bradley or the convenience store on the corner or going to the grocery store nearby is not permitted. Please know, we are watching, my team, we were out today enforcing that children get on the shuttle, ride the shuttle safely between campus. I want our students to understand that this is about their safety. They're making a choice, many of them, to go to the Bradley Shopping Center, and we heard it between the transitions today. I just want to grab a snack. That is not the time to grab a snack. Your safety is of the utmost importance, and we will continue. You will see our staff throughout Bradley. You'll see our staff at the campuses redirecting students to the buses. Please, students, get on the shuttles. It's for your own safety. You're going to probably see some more communications coming out from my office as well as the school offices, because parents, we need your support in this. We cannot do this alone. We had a student tell me today that their parent said it was okay. It's not okay. It's not an option. They need to ride the shuttles. There are intersections they have to cross, and if they need a food option that maybe they forgot a lunch or something, please go to the school office or the cafeteria to get that food option. We are a closed campus. I want to repeat that. We are a closed campus. So you will continue to see staff making sure as much as possible we can get students on the buses between the campuses.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question from the audience.
Oh, great. I think this is more directed to the community partners, but what about behavior that takes place outside the school? So at private parties or online, that sort of behavior. Does the community have resources to support parents in those instances?
So I know that the police department has a non-emergency number. I don't have that on top of my head. We also offer a teen text line, so parents and teens can use that resource to ask questions, to share concerns, and so we can route that to the appropriate place. But communicating, we've also had youth share some of those concerns directly, with us, with our board of directors, as well as parents, and really sharing, what they're hearing, what they're seeing, as well as ideas for how to address those issues. So I would encourage you all to visit our website, prevent@alexandria.org, for information about some of those resources.
Okay, so we actually have two more questions from the audience.
Hi again. Kids often say and do interesting things. How do I, as a parent, balance consequences against keeping my kids involved and staying engaged in their lives?
I'm going to give the quick, short answer. We are working on more parent sessions to support parent decisions and building relationships and making healthy choices. So it will come out of our Office of Student Services, where we will give advice and some feedback, and hopefully you'll bring your students along with you to those sessions. But really, it's about the conversation.
That's coming up very soon. We're definitely we're going to be doing parenting sessions, not only on how to talk to your students, but also what kind of conversations you should have with them, and how to, based on the different ages and based on the different concerns. So that's coming up.
And the last one I have is, could you please explain why parents are not informed of consequences for other children when their child has been involved in an altercation or been the victim of an altercation?
That is protected by law. We cannot share any of another student's information with the parent. We can only share information with you, and all of that other information is protected by law.
Thank you. That's all I have from online.
Okay, thank you all. I think it's time that we move on to the next part of our evening, our breakout sessions. There's going to be a slide on the screen with the room numbers, I believe, of where people can go for the different options. And that should be coming in a second. And if you cannot stay for the breakout sessions, please check out our resource tables before you go. Many of our community partners that are up here, in addition to some additional resources, will be out there, and they have lots of great information to share with you. So they're going to also be listed up here at some point. We're looking forward to continuing our partnership with ACPS as we work together to make sure all of our students and families feel safe and supported in our schools. I just want to say thank you to ACPS and to the PTSA for working with PTAC to organize this event. I want to thank the ACPS comms team for all of their help putting this together. It was quite an event, and so thank you. And on behalf of the I don't know what that is, I'm sorry. And on behalf of the Alexandria PTA Council, the ACHS PTSA, our 17 PTA units, over 1,300 members across the city, thank you again for joining us tonight.